Happy Monday, everybody. My name is Jordan Mosley. My co-host Stephen Untied, he's out again. He's sick, so please excuse his absence. But today is Monday, January the 13th. This is the UntiedJordans podcast, episode 10. Before I get started, just want to thank everybody that's helped me out through this process of getting through this first 2.5 month process of podcasting and these episodes and feedback and the views that I get and all the content and things of that nature. Man, I really do thoroughly appreciate it. We really do thoroughly appreciate it. With that being said, I'm wearing my Miami Hurricanes t-shirt. If you guys have noticed, I've worn this t-shirt one other time on air, but I'm wearing it on air today for a particular reason, because arguably the greatest college football coach, or arguably the greatest football coach in the history of the Miami Hurricanes, is now part of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and we will get to that later. So let's jump right into it. Going into the playoff action from this past weekend. Man, a lot to be said. It's pretty safe to say that the Tennessee Titans are not to be taken lightly or not to be respected at this point. It's also safe to say that the Baltimore Ravens are starting to get a thorn in their side to where they do well in the regular season and they don't do well in the playoffs behind Lamar Jackson being a quarterback. Not to necessarily say that was his problem or that's his fault, with him having a 365-yard passing day and a 143-yard rushing day on 20 carries in a loss against the Tennessee Titans. Jarrell Casey had 2 sacks in that game. Derrick Henry, Derrick Henry, he was definitely looking like the rushing king and the running back king in the NFL as of right now. Derrick Henry had 30 carries for 195 yards and I believe 2 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. But just how daunting of an effort that he had to have those 30 carries for 195 yards against a relatively respectable Baltimore front seven and a relatively respectable Baltimore run defense going into the game, because obviously Baltimore, with them being upset as the number 1 seed, they had a week off, so they had a week preemptively to prepare and go into it. I wouldn't say that they were necessarily underprepared, but I was just kind of surprised that I didn't really see anybody on the Baltimore Ravens defense really have any smash mouth, hard nosed type of approach towards hitting Derrick Henry and trying to implement the punishment. He looked more like the hammer versus the nail in relation to being the nail versus a defense full of hammer style tacklers and hitters. So I thought that was really interesting to see. Mike Vrabel. A lot of people don't really realize this, and I don't think a lot of people are giving it enough credit. So I'm gonna try to point it out a little bit more and give it a little bit more credit. What I would definitely say as far as Mike Vrabel is concerned is this: with the advantageous theme or vibe that he creates by way of him doing what he does and by way of his presence in the NFL right now as a head coach, and as a head coach for a team in the AFC, and as a head coach for a team as a head coach who's defeated former coaches he's played against, a former dynasty level team that he was a part of, things of that nature. A lot of people don't realize that Mike Vrabel is the only NFL coach who's currently coaching who's won a championship as a player in the 2000s. Why is that important? Why does that matter? The main reason why that is important and why that matters, in my personal opinion, is because of the fact that there's particular plays and scenarios and situations that you find yourself in, and you try to practice those things. You try to drill those things. You try to put yourself in a position to mentally to have those mental reps and mentally repetition these plays and repetition these scenarios and practice a myriad of different times during the playoffs. But it's different when you have a head coach who's the leader of your whole entire group of men on a 53-man roster, beginning, when you look at the playoffs. And you have a guy who's literally been in the trenches on the defensive side of the ball at a physical position, as far as him being the edge outside linebacker guy for the Patriots for all those different years, and then on the back end of his career for the Chiefs. And he has a different type of approach. He has an approach that's very relative to the player. He has an approach that's very, very relative to the football fan that also still plays the game, a guy like myself. So I feel like seeing how he operates and seeing how he just his overall order of operation, just about how he just attacks it, just his general approach to how he coaches the game, how passionate he is about it, how he's definitely puts himself in a position to be on point at all times. You don't really see him getting out coached. You don't really see him being in a position where he's showing in play call, or he's showing in situational football throughout a playoff game, or throughout the last 2 playoff games that they've displayed as a wild card. Mind you, they're a wild card. I believe they are the 6th seed. And what he shows so far is just how incredibly dope he is at just being comfortable in such a hellacious situation because of on-the-job experience, if you will, and not necessarily from a coach's perspective. So just let that sit for a minute, I guess, if you will. The Kansas City Chiefs and Houston Texans. The Houston Texans jumped out to a 24-0 lead. They scored 7 more points, and then Pat Mahomes, 321 yards, 5 touchdowns. Travis Kelce, 134 yards, 3 touchdowns on 8 or 9 grabs. I want to say 8 grabs. And you look up, and the final score of the game was 52-31. Patrick Mahomes and company. If you want to look at it mathematically, they scored 3 touchdowns in 3 minutes and 3 seconds. They scored 4 touchdowns in about 10 minutes and some change, 10 minutes and 23 seconds, I believe they said during the game yesterday. But my point is, they scored basically 41. Yeah, they scored basically 41 unanswered points. Like, it was ridiculous, to the point where Houston jumps out to a 24-0 lead. Bill O'Brien makes a couple of not really a couple, but he makes a couple of boneheaded special teams plays, trying to be overly aggressive instead of wanting to squeeze the ball, as we say in professional football, where you're in a big time, high playoff, high championship situation, and you're up by a lot, and you just try to start to squeeze the clock, and you start to try to run down the game clock as much as possible. He didn't really think about squeezing the clock. He wanted to stay aggressive because he understood the firepower that is the Kansas City Chiefs offense, and he ended up basically being bitten in the ass by allowing that to take place. And then from there, Kansas City waking up and being the offensive giant, the offensive sleeping giant that they displayed, that they showed and proved yesterday. They woke up and, they absolutely went ham, and they ran roughshod over Houston in the second half. It's really funny, though. One of the smallest microcosms that I noticed in the game yesterday was seeing Frank Clark, the defensive end for the Kansas City Chiefs. The funny part about it with Frank Clark yesterday was he's a $100 million guy. They gave him a $100 million extension when they traded him from the Seahawks. But the kicker of all of that is the fact of, how can I say this? The kicker of all that is a guy like that makes a play yesterday in the game. But not only does he make that play that he makes in the game yesterday, but it's a scenario where he was left literally unblocked schematically the last play of the game, and the last 4th down play that was ran by the Houston Texans in hopes of getting the first down to be able to continue the final drive. Them hoping to be able to continue their final drive of the game, trying to, I guess, at that point put some more points on the board and not make the score look as bad as it was. Okay. Alrighty, cool. Had a little, had a little technical difficulty, if you will. Podcasting, man, it's a trip. Tell you what. Beyond that, let's segue to let's segue to the NFC side, because we've spoken about the AFC so far. The San Francisco 49ers and the Minnesota Vikings. Relatively underwhelming game by the Vikings in a myriad of different ways. Kirk Cousins played small in a big game again. 172 yards, 1 touchdown on 22 of 29 passing, 21 of 29 passing. Dalvin Cook was held to 18 yards on 9 carries. 18 yards on 9 carries for Dalvin Cook. I believe Stephon Diggs had 54 yards receiving. Adam Thielen had another 45 yards receiving, 47 yards total, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Basically a very, very pedestrian display by their offense. And in return, they had a very underwhelming defensive performance as well. They had, on their entire defense, they only had 1 sack, so shame on them. And on top of that, other than Danielle Hunter showing flashes of why he's the best young pass rusher in football, in my opinion, and it's arguable. I don't put full solid belief in that full tilt, but I do believe he's definitely top 3 young pass rusher in the NFL. and he didn't really have much of a big impact on what was going on. Speaking of pass rushers, J.J. Watt looked relatively ineffective yesterday. He looked relatively what would you call it? I guess you could say he looked relatively disarmed. Lack of a better word. Excuse me for lack of a better word or for lack of a better pun. But excuse me for that pun. I guess kind of an indirect pun, seeing the fact that he was coming back from a shoulder injury. But I just feel like he probably, in my personal opinion, did some things. He probably rushed him back a little bit faster than most to be able to be in a situation. And the football guys have a way of speaking on that. So there you go. But I won't get into that too detailed. But beyond that, the Green Bay Packers and the Seattle Seahawks, the Devontae Adams, 8 catches, 160 yards, 2 touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers, playoff AR-12, as I put in my notes last night. He's just different. It's not really, I don't think that there's a person who is more easily motivated in the playoffs. By the way, the media didn't pick him at all last week. My co-host Stephen definitely picked him because he's a Packers fan. So there you go. But, the media for the most part wrote him off last week. Beyond that, nobody's really said anything about the now 14, but the 13-3 regular season Green Bay Packers, who's also in their first year, who's also in a first-year tenure with their head coach, 40-year-old head coach Matt LaFleur. So go figure. A guy because a lot of people thought when they first came together, people said, okay, Matt LaFleur won't work. Aaron Rodgers is a prima donna who also ran Mike McCarthy at the Green Bay. But seeing the product, seeing the production, and seeing the finished product now, because it's damn near finished. It basically is a finished product. They're productive in the playoffs in their first year, so now you're at a finished product as far as your first year's body of work as a head coach. But the kicker is, or the gag of that is, in my opinion, it makes you wonder. It makes you go back a second time, a third time, and wonder, was Mike McCarthy really the big problem in Green Bay, or was it Aaron Rodgers? And to me, it seems more like, okay, Aaron Rodgers is a relatively easy to work with type of quarterback, and it's a situation where also he's definitely the type of guy where he doesn't make things difficult on a guy who may not know as much or who may want to be a little bit more jazzed up, or a little bit more, or have a little bit more pizzazz, a little bit more oomph in the playbook, but they may not be able to trust the person throwing the ball. But in a situation like having Aaron Rodgers, you can totally maximize what you want to do game plan wise by way of his talent. That's what makes him one of the best quarterbacks in the game. That's what makes him one of the best quarterbacks in the last 10 years in the playoffs. So, I feel like he definitely put that on. He definitely showed it yesterday. Him and Devontae Adams just had in his quote, I guess a direct quote from the weekend that was really stuck out. Aaron Rodgers said, there was about 4 different scenarios where he and I just had just had nonverbal communication and just was able to understand exactly where he was on the field. And I haven't felt that way about a receiver since Jordy Nelson. So, if him and Devontae Adams are getting that kind of chemistry this late in the year, the San Francisco 49ers should definitely look out. In reference to the 49ers and in relation to the 49ers-Vikings game, their defense is really sick. Their pass rush is really dominant. I haven't seen a pass rush like the San Francisco 49ers probably since the Giants days with Tuck and Yumi. And I'm saying it's like something consistently because they've been doing this now really low-key the last 3 years. DeForest Buckner's a third-year guy. Eric Armstead's a third-year guy. Nick Bosa obviously is a rookie. My pick, I think they should split the Rookie of the Year thing. I don't think it should just be one whole Rookie of the Year. But he's obviously the defensive Rookie of the Year. He's not even close. So, but overall Rookie of the Year, probably in that for that vote for what it's worth, seeing that's how they do it in the NFL. And I just feel like their D-line is just ridiculously dominant. I feel like to give a preview to next week, I guess like a one-sentence preview, I have the 49ers beating the Packers simply because of the fact that I think the 49ers will be able to get by Green Bay's O-line. And Green Bay's O-line isn't necessarily hurt, but one of their best players may or may not play next weekend. A guy named Brian Bulaga, who missed yesterday's game and was replaced by Jared Veld here at right tackle. He missed it with basically had the flu. He came out for pregame warm-ups. He tried to get it in, tried to crank it up, and it just wasn't going. 9-year veteran from the University of Iowa. Really good offensive line play out there in Kenny, out there in Iowa City. Let's see. We will now segue to just basically an NFL rundown for the most part. I basically gave you guys five different major factors that I saw this weekend of what teams did to win, and I gave you 5 different factors of what teams gave to lose. So in a nutshell, I just feel like Houston, they let KC off the hook. Kansas City, Kansas City didn't lose, but Houston, and then when you look at Baltimore, they just depended too much on Lamar. You didn't see any big time receiver play. He was very vanilla in his scheme. A lot of seam routes, a lot of stuff that he was very successful with earlier in the season. He definitely had that success dwindle down at a hellacious amount and at a hellacious rate. This past weekend, from the fact of just like vertical seam routes with the tight ends, halfback options, things of that nature. And Mark Ingram, he looked like he's still nursing the calculus. He looked relatively non-existent. Small tidbit from this weekend that I thought was interesting, but kind of in a negative way. Marshall Yonda, 8-time All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro, offensive guard for the Baltimore Ravens, 35-year-old, 12 or 13-year vet. He accused Jeffrey Simmons, the rookie defensive tackle, first-round pick for the Tennessee Titans. He accused Jeffrey Simmons of spitting in his face. And, I play professional football for a living. I'm 7 years in. I've never spat in a guy's face. I've never had my face spat in. That's something that's absolutely, no, all bets are off at that point if that would ever happen. But it's ironic that he just got accused of the same thing in the season finale of this year's regular season. He got accused of spitting in a guy's face. The weekend before, because he didn't play the last week of the season, but he got accused in week 16 of spitting in a guy's face in Cincinnati. So I mean, it is what it is. You can't. It's very hard to prove these things, but I'll look at it both ways. I'll play devil's advocate, and I won't for a second. Playing devil's advocate, if he spat in somebody's face in Cincinnati week 16, that's what your ass get. It's called tit for tat. It's called karma. But by the same token, let me be clear, not playing devil's advocate for a minute, if that's something that took place and he did it and he didn't do it, and it happened to him and he didn't do that first to another guy another way, then Jeffrey Simmons, you're ridiculously out of line, and you should definitely, you should definitely check yourself. I mean, I understand that you got to play in the NFL with a certain type of mentality and a certain type of dog-ass attitude and approach towards it, but you still have to be tasteful and you still have to be classy towards a game that is, that is way bigger than you as a player. Just thought I'd put that out there. More of an NFL rundown now before we get into the coaching carousel. All 4 teams that need an NFL head coach all fill their head coaching positions. TV networks are starting to kind of probe Drew Brees on figuring out how much or how excited he would be, or the excitement that he has behind wanting to potentially join broadcast booths and things of that nature, kind of trying to pull Brees out of the locker room and kind of pull him into the broadcast booth. I don't really see Drew Brees entertaining any of that right now. So we'll see how that plays out going forward. In the XFL, Steve Levy, and actually a guy I had the opportunity to meet a few weeks ago here in Charlotte. He was here for the ACC Championship broadcasting, obviously, and I had the opportunity to meet him and give him my information and stuff like that and pass along my content. So once again, Steve Levy, I appreciate that. I appreciate that meeting that evening as well. So I appreciate that, man. Kind of impromptu. But him and Greg McElroy, the former standout national champion quarterback from the University of Alabama, will be the announcers, at least for the ESPN chain of the XFL broadcast that will be starting in the next couple of months here in early 2020. Wade Phillips will not be back with the LA Rams as a defensive coordinator. Malcolm Jenkins has also come out and is under quote saying that I will not play another game for the Philadelphia Eagles under the same deal. I mean no harm, Malcolm Jenkins, but I don't know how much money you're looking to get on the open market, but I don't think Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman will want to pay that to you, because as great of a leader as you've been for my Eagles, you make plays, but they're very sparse. They're very sporadic. I think there's a lot of safeties in the league better than Malcolm Jenkins. I think there's a lot of young safeties better in the league than Malcolm. Not really better in the league than Malcolm Jenkins, because he's tenured with a Super Bowl and an 07 Pro Bowl selection. But nonetheless, I just feel like there's guys out there better than Malcolm Jenkins. So if we let him go on the open market and we're able to take a guy like a high pick safety, which I don't see in the draft, or we would be able to get a veteran, be able to swap that out, maybe I hope that would work, but we'll see. I would like to have Malcolm Jenkins back, but I'm not really gonna. Just from a personal sense, me being a diehard Eagles fan, I'm not really going to put myself in a position to just be crying over, Malcolm Jenkins don't want to come back. Beyond that, we will. Oh, I'll also mention this momentarily. Bill Cowher and Jimmy Johnson. Hence why I'm wearing my Miami Hurricanes tee. Bill Cowher and Jimmy Johnson were named over the weekends as Hall of Famers. Really, really cool situations. The dual scenarios, the same scenario both times. Bill Cowher and Jimmy Johnson were both interrupted by David Baker, who's the commissioning director of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, on live television to be announced too that they will both be enshrined as the 327th and 28th members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So that was really, really cool. A little obviously backup about both guys. Bill Cowher, Super Bowl 40 winning head coach. One of the meanest scowls that you could ever want to, see on a football field or on a television camera on a football Sunday or a Monday night or Thursday night, if you will. A guy like Bill Cowher, from what I noticed, because he was definitely a coach of my childhood, and seeing Bill Cowher just kind of do what he did, he was really a no bullshit kind of guy, but he seemed like he really, 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 really loved every single player that he had, and he really, really poured his heart into the Pittsburgh Steelers organization as a leader of men and just as a teacher of the great game of football. So it's definitely cool to see Bill Cowher become a Hall of Famer. Jimmy Johnson, the University of Miami's second best coach of all time. I personally have to give it to Howard Schnellenberger because he started to roll the ball that Jimmy Johnson collected and continued to roll at a little bit more faster pace. Melvin Bratton, Brian Blades, Michael Irvin, Vinny Testaverde. I want to make sure I never get this wrong. Bernie Kosar, just some of the different players at the University of Miami that played for Jimmy Johnson. Russell Maryland, Jerome Brown, guys like that. So to see a guy like Jimmy Johnson be a Hall of Famer, and obviously with his professional prowess, he coached the Dallas Cowboys in their glory years. It's been a long time since the Dallas Cowboys even sniffed a Super Bowl, much less 2 playoff wins, or much less a playoff win. But nonetheless, Jimmy Johnson was the head coach for you guys' glory years. Troy Aikman, the Great Wall of Dallas, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, I can go on and on. Daryl Johnstone, Deion Sanders, Darren Woodson, once again, Russell Maryland, Charles Haley, just to name a few guys that he had the opportunity and the pleasure of coaching in his time in Dallas. Arguably the best head coach in the history, the number 1 best head coach in the history of the Dallas Cowboys, and in my opinion, the number 2 greatest head coach in the history of Miami Hurricanes football. Let's segue now to the coaching carousel. Like I said, all 4 teams have hired new coaches. Let's start with the Washington Redskins. Once again, they went with Ron Rivera to give you a little bit more of an update with that. They're going with Jack Del Rio as the defensive coordinator. They're going with Scott Turner, the former Carolina Panthers offensive coordinator from this past year. He will be the offensive coordinator going forward he'll be the offensive coordinator going forward in Washington as well with the Redskins. So he'll be having to develop a relationship with Dwayne Haskins. I think that'll be a situation that'll definitely work out well for both parties involved. Doug Williams is now the Senior Vice President of Player Development, and a really important pickup. One of the better trainers, if not one of the best trainers in the NFL, one of the most consistent trainers in the NFL, Ryan Vermillion. He leaves the Carolina Panthers and he joins the Washington Redskins. Why does this matter? Why do I even give a fuck about talking about this to mention to my listeners? The Trent Williams situation was really, really tumultuous and very volatile for the Washington Redskins this year, and it cost them a few wins because he's arguably the best left tackle in football when he's in the lineup, and it's not even close. So with that being said, Trent Williams had a brain tumor situation he had a situation in his head that ended up being an actual brain tumor, and it had to be removed because they thought it to be cancerous. And that was something that was really, really terribly mishandled by the head athletic trainer of the Washington Redskins in relation to a guy who's been there over the last 17 plus years, and a guy who was a Bruce Allen guy. So with Bruce Allen leaving, also apparently this athletic trainer getting the hell out of here was also a very important thing to the Washington Redskins to get it taken care of, because of the fact that Ron Rivera, being a very intelligent man that he is, understands the value and the importance of being able to retain an all-pro level left tackle like Trent Williams and being able to keep the big boy happy. So that makes a whole lot of sense to me. So big kudos to him for making that move, bringing in a really solid trainer like Ryan Vermillion. Matt Rule, he's a new head coach in Carolina. He's bringing his college defensive coordinator with him from Baylor, hoping to help a defense that was 31st in points surrendered and 23rd in the league last year in yards surrendered per game. Talking about the Carolina Panthers defense, I really think it was a horrible pickup by the Carolina Panthers. I feel like in a perfect world, the Carolina Panthers coaching situation is one of the main examples or microcosms of the problems that I think that you have with the lack of minority coaches in the NFL. A guy like Marvin Lewis, right? Marvin Lewis comes in. Hugh Jackson is Hugh Jackson's automatically your offensive coordinator or your quarterback's coach. So then there you go, Cam. You've been blessed. Then from there, you have a guy like Marvin Lewis who worked with the greatest, arguably, at least in my time, he worked with the greatest middle linebacker of all time, a guy named Ray Lewis. He worked with Ray Lewis way back in 2001, and he also worked with a personal mentor of mine, Peter Bulwer, from that same defense. Shout out Spring Valley High School, Columbia, South Carolina, Florida State guy. But terrible Florida State guy. I hate Florida State. But yeah, man. But they could take a guy like Marvin Lewis, allow him to potentially, bring in a guy like a Ray Lewis to be a linebackers coach, something that a lot of people think because of the fact he's on Inside the NFL on Showtime, he wouldn't tear away to do, but he definitely would tear away to do because he loves the game. And be able to have Ray Lewis be able to take a guy like Luke Kuechly under his wing and be able to keep him as a solid core and nucleus of the defense, of which he is still to this day. Over 120 plus tackles a year, still ridiculously productive, still stupid productive. But the thing of it is like, they took a gamble on a guy like Matt Rule, young hotshot guy, made Baylor and Temple better programs. I'm not knocking Baylor, I'm not knocking Temple. I got personal friends from both schools who play for Coach Rule personally, ironically. Talk about small world. But by the same token, I just feel like it's a scenario where it just doesn't seem like it's going to work. I don't see a lot of signs why it'll work. I don't see a lot of signs of what makes of how it may even make any sense. And the primary reasoning for my stance on this is there's only one thing that makes sense. David Tepper is a new owner of a new regime within a franchise in the NFL. So you're starting a new program. You want a new program set. You want things to be. You want to put your fingerprint on what it is in which you guys are trying to get accomplished. Cool, I get that. But my thing is, that's the only thing that this guy can do is take a mediocre program and make it better in college football. That's not really what the NFL is all about, per se. The Cleveland Browns they're shitty. They've been shitty for a long time. They've brought in 12 coaches. I'll get to that in a minute because they got a new head coach as well. They've had 12 coaches since 99. So I think they've had two owners and 12 coaches since 99. So you bring in coaches to want to change programs, and then they don't change the program, and they end up being fired. So I feel like in a perfect world, why not just put themselves in a position, or why not Carolina put themselves in a position to hire somebody that can not only right a ship that isn't really all bad off, but just have somebody with some real NFL clout who knows what the fuck they're doing in the NFL. I just think that just really bothered me. Eric Bieniemy, another great guy, could have been hired at that position, could have been hired for that gig. You know what I mean? Jim Caldwell, bring him in for an interview. Hugh Jackson, bring him in for an interview. I'm just saying. My boy Battle. I'm just saying, man. This is just my personal opinion on that. That really chaps my ass. I'm not gonna lie to you. Pat Shermer, he's a Denver Broncos offensive coordinator. So, in my opinion, I don't mean any harm, but they have what's my kid's name at the tackle? They have Bowles they have Garrett Bowles at the left tackle. You got Conor McGovern at center. You got Max Garcia at guard. You got not Kobe Latimer. You got Cortland Sutton at receiver. You had Emmanuel Sanders. He's not there. You got Royce Freeman. You got Phillip Lindsay. You got Jeff Hireman, pretty good young tight end. And you got Drew Lock, who John Elway's riding with. For what it's worth, I really hope that this whole Pat Shermer thing can work out with Drew Lock. But then again, when you have a guy like Pat Shermer with a guy like Drew Lock, who's a guy who does like to throw the ball, who's a guy who is proficient in throwing the ball and running that style of offense, I think they'll kind of have like a spread kind of style of offense out there going forward. And I think it may work. It was just kind of such of a not really out of the dark, but it was kind of such of a pull from over here kind of move. You know, what can you do? We'll see. I don't know. I don't really care. I'm not a Broncos fan, but it'll be interesting to watch because Pat Shermer was just a head coach, so that'll be interesting to see. Kevin Stefanski, head coach of the Cleveland Browns now. The last 13 years, he's been with the Minnesota Vikings in a myriad of different ways. Head coach's assistant offensive coordinator, regular offensive coordinator, quality control coach, quarterbacks coach, running backs coach, tight ends coach. 13 years tenured coaching in the NFL. Cool. Hasn't been too many places. A lot of great minds have come in and out of that building, in the last 13 years. So I can't speak to that. But once again, Cleveland, Marvin Lewis, Eric Bieniemy. Now, people won't know where the hell I'm coming from with this. Eric Bieniemy just scored 51 or 52 points, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday for the Kansas City Chiefs as their offensive coordinator, right? Picture this. Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Rashad Higgins, Hollywood Higgins, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb. You draft another O-lineman to go along with Joel Bitonio, one of the better offensive guards in the league. I mention that every time I bring up the Browns. Baker Mayfield. You put Eric Bieniemy, I think you say guru. Offensive guru level offensive coordinator. And you take him as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, you give him all those toys. And you mean to tell me they won't win at least 10 games and average at least 25 to 27, 28 points a game on offense? You're crazy. You're tripping. I would argue that with anybody, sports media or not. I would argue that with anybody. Because I just feel like at the end of the day, once again, you bring in a guy who's been on the same NFL's team's coaching staff in consistent manner in different role for 13 years. 13 years. Like the same team. 13 years worth of Minnesota Vikings apparel. Same guy. I'm not mad at that. But once again, experience, championships, championship experience. The players you've coached, the legendary players you've coached. A guy like Marvin Lewis would have been amazing in Cleveland. Would have been perfect. By the way, Mack Wilson's one of the best young Mike linebackers in the NFL. The kid was a Pro Bowler this year. If I'm not mistaken, he might have been All Pro. Nah, I'm pretty sure he was a Pro Bowler. One or the other. But yeah, they got Christian Kirksey, another great, solid. Not necessarily great, but another solid linebacker. Denzel Ward, Greedy Williams. You know what I mean? They have talent. Olivier Vernon, Sheldon Richardson. They have Joe Schobert. They have great players in Cleveland. They have really good players in Cleveland. They need a leader of men. A guy like Marvin Lewis in Cleveland would have definitely made a lot of sense. I wish Kevin Stefanski the best of luck. But guess what, Cleveland Brown fans? You guys will be hiring your 13th coach since 1999 in the next 2 years. Just putting that out there. I don't think it's going to work. Let's segue to the Dallas Cowboys. Mike McCarthy's the head coach, 5-year contract. By the way, the contract that the Panthers gave Matt Rule, they should be ashamed of themselves. All that money they gave that man, he's a top 7 paid coach in the NFL right now. he ain't coached a single day in the NFL outside of being the assistant O-line coach for the Giants in 2012. That's crazy. That makes no damn sense. But Mike McCarthy, 5-year deal. Mike Nolan, the former San Francisco 49ers head coach. He'll be the defensive coordinator. Kellen Moore will be the offensive coordinator. Probably will call the plays too. One of the brighter young minds in football. I think Kellen Moore is kind of like establishing an inside route to the Dallas Cowboys head coaching position, like in the next 1 to 2 guys. Maybe the next guy if Mike McCarthy doesn't work out. So I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see that going forward if that was to take place. Ron Parker retired. I'm a South Carolina guy. For those who don't know, I'm from Columbia, South Carolina, born and bred. Proud representative of my state. And Ron Parker from Beaufort, South Carolina. Have a career, brother Parker. He retired 12 years tenured. Big, long time Kansas City Chiefs. Bounced around a couple other teams. The Seattle Seahawks, I can remember off the top of my head. But Beaufort High School guy. Newberry College guy, small school Division II guy, just like me, man. Division II small school guy, Johnson C. Smith kid, right here in Charlotte, man. Just want to salute to you, man. Big old hat to you, man. Just want to tip my hat to you, big dog. You know what I'm saying? Love watching you play. Love watching you make plays. Love watching you, just properly represent the state of South Carolina in every way, shape, form, and fashion, man. We definitely appreciate you for that, man. Wish you the best, man, and God bless. Beyond that, speaking of another guy that may retire, Marshawn Lynch, easily the dopest media guy in the NFL. This is what I mean by that. He's easily, to me, the most interesting guy to want to listen to when he interviews, because when he actually opens his mouth, he has really, really, really important shit to say. And I also think that he does a really good job of showing people and showing guys in the NFL that when you do have a microphone in your face, you have a chance you have an opportunity to positively affect change. And you don't have to just say something stupid as hell or ignorant as hell or ridiculously like just out of line or out of bounds or belittling somebody because you didn't athletically perform the way you wanted to on this particular evening, blah, blah, blah. Marshawn Lynch basically said in a more watered down version, it's a podcast, I say what I want, but nonetheless, he said, basically all y'all young guys out here in the NFL, you need to take care of your money, take care of your brains, take care of your bodies. So when you get out of football, you can be able to do what the fuck you want to do. And then on top of being able to do what you want to do, you can be able to not have nobody tell you what to do, and you can be able to make your own moves and be able to take care of yourself after the fact. He also mentioned that it touched him personally to a particular degree, that he had a couple of guys that he's played with in the NFL that didn't even last in the NFL as long as he did, and they're no longer here. So it put him in a position of making sure he woke up and not woke up later, but make sure he woke up in his time in the NFL and understood he needed to take care of himself, take care of his body, be able to save his money, things of that nature. His whole entire $51.4 that he got in contract money over his career is in his pockets, people. He lived off about $2.5 to $5 million a year in endorsements the last like 7 or 8 years he was in the NFL. So yeah, Marshawn ain't hurting for nothing. So kudos to Marshawn Lynch, man. He came back in. He scored a touchdown in both games that he was asked to be in. Marshawn did exactly what he wanted to do, and he gave out the best message. He gave out the best message that I've heard an NFL player give out on the back end of what may be the end of his career that I've heard in at least the last 10, 15 years. Seriously. Like, it wasn't selfish. It wasn't anything about Marshawn. He just let people know, hey, man, if you're listening and you're young and you in this thing with me, brother, this is what you need to do to make sure you're okay. Brother. Like, that's all right. That's all right with me, Marshawn. Like, you get extra points with me for that, big dog. I definitely respect I definitely respect your position, your approach on that for sure. Speaking of a third athlete that potentially may retire in the NFL after this year, Tom Brady has been quoted, or not Tom Brady, but it has been quoted by Robert Kraft that he wants Tom Brady to either re-sign for the Pats or retire. Doesn't want to see Tom Brady in another uniform against Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady would totally rip them a new asshole. So I feel like at the end of the day, I'm not mad at that. But by the same token, I feel like that's another way of showing you how Robert Kraft feels about Tom Brady. He doesn't want him anywhere else. He doesn't want him to be anywhere else. He doesn't want him to put himself in a position to be seen or be taken care of or be handled by anybody else. And it goes to show how much he cares about the guy. But it's also really, really interesting to me just how that situation plays out overall. You know what I mean? Like, just seeing, like, okay, does he want that? Like, does he want to continue to allow that to be a thing or not so much? So that'll be interesting to see going forward, just to see how that plays out in New England. By the way, Julian Edelman got arrested for jumping on the roof of somebody's Mercedes in LA. Man, just act your age, bro. Like, come on, man. We know we see you, Julian Edelman. Like, to me, he's always trying to do something to be seen. We see you, Julian. Like, just act your age, bro. Come on, man. You too old for that shit. But beyond that, last coaching carousel topic of the day, or last coaching carousel point before I move back out of that topic. Joe Judge, new head coach of the New York Giants. Fundamentals, situation, being properly prepared for situations, and effort. All he feels like they can control within the building. Never a head coach or OC, special teams guy, big time special teams guy, receivers coach slash special teams coach this past year with the New England Patriots. Before that, he was a special teams coach for 2 years for the New England Patriots, and then before that, he was a special teams coordinator for the University of Alabama. 5 titles in the last 6 years, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Received excellent. He received excellent recommendation from Nick Saban and Bill Belichick as well, so that definitely helped in the situation. But once again, I feel like it'll work. He sound like as natural as he trying to sound. He sound really animated. So I don't know about all that. We'll see. But it doesn't sound like my kind of coach. Sound like a coach out kind of out of a Cracker Jack box. But we'll see. Everybody has the opportunity to prove to who they are and things of that nature. He definitely his main goals. He wants to always put his team up under the proper pressure to prepare for multiple situations. He wants to be flexible in his personnel. He never looked. He said he's been quoted as saying in the media that he never wants to look at players as far as what can a guy not do. What can he do to be able to help me out and play? What can he do to be able to help me out and put myself in a position to be able to use his athletic qualities and athletic prowess and his athletic skill to his best advantage to be able to help us win ball games. So, if you want to be a special teamer and you're outside of your position, the New York Giants is somewhere you probably want to end up in the next 2-3 years because you're trying to just find great athletes all over the field, even including the 1/3 of the game, which is super important, super special, super important to him. Obviously, with it being, the special teams game. So it's really interesting to see. Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, overpaid Nate Solder. You got Sterling Shepard. Big Cat Leonard Williams on the D-line, Dalvin Tomlinson on the D-line. So we'll see. I think DeAndre Baker at the corner. New England's kind of a piece or two away, but I just don't see it right now. So we'll see what New England does going down the road with the Joe Judge situation. But definitely congratulations to him getting the job in New York. Here we go. Oh, and by the way, the Giants have won 25% of their games in the last 3 years. Was one of another reasons why they want to get Pat Shermer up out of there. Xavier McKinney declared for the NFL Draft. DB from Alabama, number 15. What he was most notably known for this past year was being the guy who got viciously and violently ran over by number 6 from Auburn in the Iron Bowl. He had a relatively good season though. He's an underclassman, so we'll see. As far as his draft status, things of that nature. From there, a very short segment because we'll get into some college football a little later because we got the national championship preview for tonight. But I don't think Tua Tagovailoa's approach is really going to work. This is my thing. If the Miami Dolphins are trying to lobby to get him at 4, cool, that makes sense. They can put him away for a year, teach him how to play the game, blah 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 blah. If that ends up not happening, we could definitely see an Aaron Rodgers 2011, 2009 and 2010 draft or something like that. I want to say he won a Super Bowl in 10. It hadn't been before that. But it'll be like the draft year with Aaron Rodgers when he dropped all the way to 22. When they took Alex Smith number 1 in San Fran. Ooh, excuse me. And they took Aaron Rodgers 22nd overall to the Green Bay Packers. I think it'll be a situation like that. So we'll see if the Miami Dolphins don't just go all in on Tua Tagovailoa, because for the last two seasons it's been rumored to say that Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, and different higher ups VPs, presidents of football operation, player personnel directors, etc. have been saying that, hey, this guy is the guy that we want for what we're trying to do with our offense. So we'll see. But I feel like this. Tua Tagovailoa being a fan, being such a loved player by Nick Saban, I find it very hard to believe that Nick Saban didn't know something very concrete and guaranteed about Tua's future in the NFL for him to give Tua the nod of thinking, hey, I think you should go and head and declare. Because if you notice, Nick Saban, he's very candid when he thinks a guy shouldn't go. Hence the Ronnie Harrison situation 2 years ago when Ronnie Harrison was a third-round pick against Nick Saban's wishes to declare for the draft, because he told Ronnie Harrison, if you come back another year, you'll be the number one safety off the board, you'll be a top 10 pick. But Ronnie Harrison was like, to hell with that, I need to go get some paper, so I'm going to give him some paper. And now he's starting safety for the Jags. Having a relatively good career, too. So, yeah, there you go with that. So, that's that for that. But we'll roll back into that with college football in just a minute. Wanted to announce something, big news out of college football, by the way. Down in Starkville, Mississippi. Small college football recruiting tidbit. Keely Ringo, the number one cornerback in the country, 6'2", 205 pounds, to the University of Georgia Bulldogs. Signed, he committed at the U.S. Army All-American game. Going to play for Kirby Smart and those hairy dogs down there between the hedges and Athens, man. So wish that kid the best of luck. 6'2", 205-pound cornerback out of high school. Jesus Christ. Cornerbacks again. I mean, it's all you see your taller corners now and then, but man, some like the top tier kids in high school now, they're so much bigger than like everybody else on the field. It's ridiculous. He's not even close. You can go to a game and be like, okay, well that's the kid getting recruited by everybody in the country, because you can just kind of tell. It's really, really interesting. Rolling into baseball now. Arbitration. Arbitration has been a really, really big time in the conversation in the last like 7 to 10 days. In a nutshell, and I have to do more research. I'm putting this in my notes. But next week we'll do a little more arbitration talk, because it's about 2-3 weeks of contracts to come out with arbitration, and I'll have a solid definition for this next week. But basically, in a nutshell, arbitration is when a player and a franchise have reached the end of an the end of an agreement or close to the end of an agreement, and they can go to arbitration court to potentially say, hey, I want this amount of money for 1 year based upon what the open market looks like and based upon what production looks like in my position. The arbitration courts in Major League Baseball work as like a third-party agent, if you will. Go figure. Like another negotiating medium, So, that being said, there were some really fat-ass contracts 1 year fat-ass contracts that got handed out. Most arbitration situations, by the way, are only 1 year deals, because usually when you it's called avoiding arbitration. When you avoid arbitration, usually you work yourself into a scenario where the next upcoming year you're usually going to parlay yourself into a really big contract. So here we go. Cody Bellinger, he set a record for the most money that a first-year arbitration-eligible player could have ever received. He received $11.5 million on a 1 year contract from the Los Angeles Dodgers. Had another stellar year. Big-time power hitter, one of the cleanest, pretty swings in baseball. It's not even close. If you get a chance, Cody Bellinger, look him up. Great swing. Amazing swing. Had another good year for the Dodgers, but once again, they fell short in the playoffs like they do every year, so go figure. I would love to get Cody Bellinger in Atlanta. That would be absolutely amazing. Mookie Betts, he set the overall all-time record for arbitration contracts. 1 year, $27 million deal. So they're going to pay Mookie Betts $27 million to play this one season and potentially extend him, or I don't know, Mookie Betts will probably end up somewhere else. But mind you, he has an MVP and a World Series MVP with the Boston Red Sox. I think he acquired both of these in like 16 or 17. So we'll see. Chris Bryant, 1 year, $18.6 million deal with the Chicago Cubs. He's a third baseman. Trevor Bauer, 1 year, $17.5 million deal with the Cleveland Indians as a starting pitcher. Now, he had a charity called 69 Days of Giving. He was also quoted that at the past winter meetings that took place last month down in Orlando with Major League Baseball, they were trying to slander his name in relation to what it was in which he was talking about, like of like what exactly that meant in relation to like 69 days of giving, seeing, like, wondering if it was just the number or if it was like more of the number in relation to sexual innuendo and things of that nature that I don't think I have to go into detail about for people to know what I'm talking about. So he felt like it was a defamation of character and things of that nature. So he went to arbitration court with the Indians and he won. 1 year, $17.5 million deal. I can't really say with a straight face that there's really much else going on really in Major League Baseball. David Peralta had a 3-year, $22 million deal, former Arizona Diamondback infielder. So he got him a little money on the open market. Really probably the dopest news that I can say that's taken place in the last 2.5 to 3 weeks of baseball. The Reds are the last guys to sign a Japanese baseball player. Shogo Akiyama is over for the Seibu Lions of the Nippon Professional League, which is the equivalency of the major leagues in Japan. And 30-year-old guy, second baseman, switch hitter. Hits to get on base, but he also has a little bit of power. Great fielder. Excellent fielder. Rolling on to the NBA. Well, quick ESPN college basketball power rankings. Baylor number 1, Gonzaga number 2. This comes out as of yesterday because I don't ever give y'all the AP top 10 for college basketball because I go live Monday mornings and it doesn't come out until Mondays at like noonish, 12:30ish. So I'm gonna be working forward as we get deeper into the winter and closer to the spring. I'm gonna be working more college basketball into the show anyway, guys. So please bear with me on that. But as of right now, I do have a power ranking for you that comes out every Sunday evening or afternoon. That comes out on the end of the college basketball weekend, and this is the top 10 I'm giving you. And the source I had this from is from ESPN.com. Baylor number 1. This is the ESPN.com men's college basketball power rankings. Baylor 1, Gonzaga 2, Duke 3rd, San Diego State, who's 17-0, 4th. The Butler Bulldogs 15-1, they're 5th. The Auburn Tigers, who are also undefeated, 15-0, they're 6th. The Kansas Jayhawks 7th. The Oregon Ducks 8th. The West Virginia Mountaineers, who are 15-2, 9, and the Florida State Seminoles. Round out your top 10. They round out the top 10 in the ESPN college basketball power rankings. Keeping the subject on basketball, the NBA, now to the NBA. Kyrie Irving returned last night, his first game back from injury on the season. So this was his season debut. He only played 20 minutes, but they had a plus 22 point differential when he was on the court. Really, really big. That's a really big. That's a pretty nice stat for people who don't really know exactly what that means. 21 points, 10 of 11 from the field, 90.9% field goal percentage. In-game record for him. He's never shot that good from the field in a night. 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Spencer Dinwiddie was quoted as saying he's one of the most dynamic offensive players. He's one of the most dominant offensive players in the NBA, and it definitely showed tonight. So I was really, really happy to see him back. So it was really cool to see, one of his teammates, kind of tap in and just say, hey man, we're happy to see the guy back. His energy makes a lot of sense. Kyrie just looked like Kyrie last night. He was also quoted after the game saying, I missed it. I miss playing. I miss being out here because I really, really love the game. So, being able to see Kyrie have a display like he had last night definitely can speak to the fact he really loves the game for sure. LeBron James, he passed Michael Jordan for field goals made all time. I think he's pretty much passed Michael in every statistical category so far. So, like, the whole statistical thing of him being a statistical goal over Mike is cool, but, I'm still not going to have the conversation. Like I said, if LeBron wins a ring with the Lakers this year, then we'll have the conversation. Period. If LeBron wins a ring with the Lakers this year, and he does it in a leadership, domineering fashion, not just riding the shoulders of Anthony Davis, then I think you can start to open up, at least with me, at least with Jordan, you can open up the door to have the conversation of him being the GOAT versus Mike. So we'll see. Rob Pelinka signed a multi-year extension with the Los Angeles Lakers. He's now the general manager as well as the newly titled vice president of basketball operations as well. He really kind of was getting his ass whooped in the media over the last 2-3 years, pre Anthony Davis and LeBron arriving, he's the problem, or he has certain people in house with the Lakers that side with him, that won't side with the coaches, or things of that nature. I don't think he ever really had a problem per se with Kobe or anything like that. So go figure. I mean, then again, it's Kobe. Kobe was an untouchable, so Kobe wasn't really worried about what Rob Pelinka had going on and vice versa. But it's pretty safe to say, in my opinion, that he's done a hell of a job the last 2.5, 3 years. Last 2 years going forward. I mean, he's got the Los Angeles Lakers in the driver's seat to win the West right now. So it's like, I don't think you can ask for much more from an NBA personnel employee than to put yourself in a position to be leading your conference. That's exactly what he did. So kudos to Rob Pelinka. From the Jimmy Butler and TJ Warren debacle that went around and went kind of viral and went around national news this past week, there was fines handed out down from that from the NBA Conduct Committee. A particular NBA guy, ex-NBA player, runs the committee. I gotta research that name one more time to give you guys that name. But Jimmy Butler was charged $35,000 and TJ Warren was charged $25,000. The majority of the $25,000 came from an obscene gesture that TJ Warren showed, or TJ Warren flashed to the fans on the way out of the game. And the $35,000 over the $25,000 for Jimmy Butler just came from the fact that he was just being more of the aggressor in the situation from what it looks like on film. In relation to, this is sidebar, but it's NBA related. Charles Barkley donated $1 million to Miles College. Thought that was really, really cool. Thought it was really, really dope. Anytime anything good happens to a HBCU athletically and it makes national news that I find, then I'm definitely going to talk about it on my show. So shout out to the Miles College Bears out of the SIAC, Division II, historically black college, by the way. The NBA All-Star Game, the 23rd of January. The starters will be revealed for the All-Star Game. Excuse me, I gotta stop doing that. The reserves, January the 30th, will be announced. The captain's draft is to be determined per when the captains are selected, and then they figure out when they want to pick their teams. Valentine's Day through the 16th is All-Star Weekend. That's a trip. Ladies, like, if your man want to do All-Star Game for Valentine's because he's a big basketball fan, like, try to meet a brother halfway in the middle. Fellas, more important than this, more important news, and more important advice, fellas. If it's Valentine's Day weekend and your girl at the All-Star Game, let it go, Jack. Just let it fly. Leave that one alone, my boy. Don't even. Let it go. Let it slide. I'm just putting that out there. A little bit of news in relation to the All-Star voting as it currently stands. We're gonna break this down by the front courts and the guards, both sides. We'll start with the West. In the front court, LeBron and AD are 1 and 2 respectively in votes. Carmelo Anthony is 8th. Yes, sir, my boy. I'm a big Carmelo fan, so I'm biased. Kawhi Leonard is 3rd overall. Paul George is 4th overall. The Joker, Nikola Jokic, who I think is the best center in basketball, and I think this shows it. He's the best center in basketball. It's not even close. He shoots the 3, and he plays defense. Not really Gobert as defense, but he plays defense. Not defense player type defense, but he does play pretty good defense. So you got the Joker, 5th overall, Nikola Jokic. You got the big cat, Karl Anthony Towns, 6th overall. You have Dwight Howard is 10th in the All-Star voting for the forwards. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Rudy Gobert is the 7th guy. I would like to wonder what Hassan Whiteside feels about that out in Portland, because I feel like he's having a relatively good year. But that's just my personal opinion. What can you do? In relation to the backcourt for the Western Conference, Luka Doncic is 1st. Not surprised, having an MVP-esque year. James Harden, the Beard, who I still believe is the leading scorer in the NBA right now. Damian Lillard is 3rd. Stephen Curry is 4th. The Brody, Russell Westbrook is 5th. Donovan Mitchell 6th. Devin Booker 7th. Excuse me. Donovan Mitchell was 7th. Devin Booker from the Phoenix Suns, he was 8th. D'Angelo Russell from the Warriors, from the Golden State Warriors, he was 9th. And Ja Morant, the rookie Dynamo guard from the Memphis Grizzlies, was 10th. I left the 6th spot out, and I didn't forget, but I left the 6th spot out because Alex Caruso is 6th in the All-Star voting. And here's a kicker. No, I didn't miss the name. Chris Paul is not on the top 10 All-Star list. Now, he's playing for a laugher this year in Oklahoma City. I get that, but from different highlights that I see on Instagram stories, and when I check out the Thunder and when they do make sports center and stuff like that, Chris Paul's making like if this is a fan thing, Chris Paul ain't got that many fans to be a top 10 guard in the Western Conference All-Star now. Is that many people? Are there that many haters out there of Chris Paul? Really? Like, that's a trip. That's as we would say, that's something to want to focus your eyes on. That's a trip, to say the least. To say the least. Let's look at the East front court. Let's look at the East front court. You got the Greek Freak overall leading. You got Joel Embiid, hot second. Pascal Siakam, third. Jimmy Butler, fourth. Jason Tatum, fifth. Bam Adebayo is seventh. Gordon Hayward is eighth. Domantas Sabonis, and Andre Drummond from my Detroit Pistons. Yes, sir. Let's go Pistons, man. Detroit basketball, baby. He's 10th overall. Taco Fall is 6th in the All-Star ranking. This is what I mean by the CP3 conversation. If you can have CP3 not be in the top 10 by way of votes, it goes to show you that fans really make the vote because they got Taco Fall in as the 6th overall forward in the NBA All-Star game. Like, it's ridiculous. He's definitely not an All-Star. But, like, people want to see him, so they're voting for him to be in there. I'm not mad at that at all. The backcourt as follows. Trae Young, 1st overall. I don't know if the Atlanta Hawks will ever be able to receive any winning greatness from Trae Young, but man, what he's doing for the Atlanta Hawks right now, man, is absolutely amazing. The kid can score. He's fast. He's exciting. He's entertaining. He can distribute the basketball, much less like nobody's business. He's really, really, really good basketball player. Big fan of Trae Young. Kyrie Irving is 2nd overall. Kemba Walker is 3rd overall. The 5th spot, Zach LaVine from the Chicago Bulls, dunking on the whole world. I would like to see Zach LaVine again in the All-Star game. In the slam dunk contest. Kyle Lowry, 6th overall. Jaylen Brown, 7th overall. Ben Simmons, Bradley Beal, and Fred VanVleet top out your. They finish out your 10. Derrick Rose is 4th in the Eastern Conference voting as an All-Star. This is another example of what I'm saying about the CP3 the CP3 comparison. Like, if y'all vote D Rose in, like, CP3 could have potentially been voted into the top to one of those 10 point guard spots. But he may not have just been balling. He may not have been playing like a top 10 point guard. Who knows? But for what my money's worth, CP3 is balling in here. So that's kind of a discrepancy. But we'll see. LSU versus Clemson. National championship tonight. I guess we'll give you a little bit of I guess we'll give you a little bit of backstory on both teams. As I called them a couple of weeks ago on the show, LSU has been college football's proverbial buzzsaw. And the buzzsaw has only the buzzsaw's motor has only gotten bigger, the buzzsaw's blade has only gotten sharper, and the buzzsaw's RPM has only increased over the season, meaning that they've become a more and more ridiculously dominant and overbearing and temperament disrupting college football team, led by Louisiana's personification, if you will, in Ed Orgeron, arguably a guy who now can say that if he does what he's supposed to do tonight, or if he does what I think LSU will do tonight, I'm picking LSU. I think it'll be like, I don't know, 36 to like 29, 36-28. It'll be a good game. But I feel like with LSU, like they have Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is now putting himself on the shelf of best seasons ever by a college football player, much less a quarterback. Like, it's not even close what he's doing. And people won't appreciate it until about 3 or 4 years from now when he's far gone. And they're talking about everything he did on the back end. Like, people won't appreciate it until then. I'm certain of that. Jordan Jefferson, 4 touchdowns in the college football playoff semifinal versus Oklahoma. Jamar Chase, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Once again, the offensive line, McGee, Lloyd Cushenberry III, Austin DeCoulis, the right tackle, Jamar Chase, the 2019 Biletnikoff Trophy winner out of LSU. That's a lot. Clevon Chason, who will definitely be a first-round pick. Derek Stingley Jr., best freshman in college football, best cornerback in college football. Grant Delpit, first-round pick safety. LSU's loaded. Christian Fulton, come on, Philly, 22, Christian Fulton, take him. We need a DB like I need a breakfast biscuit right now. I'm trying to tell you, come on, man, we need him bad. We need him bad. But beyond that, that's pretty much the long and short of clips. Joe Brady, one of the brightest offensive minds in all of football. And then you have Clemson. Dabo Swinney has a chance of becoming, in my opinion, the greatest college football coach that I've ever seen with my own 2 eyes in my time of understanding what football was all about since Nick Saban. And what I mean by that is this. When you talk about, slaying dragons and doing things in college football to put yourself in a position of going down in the pantheon, like going out in the Hall of Halls. Dabo Swinney has a chance tonight to, like, cement his career. Like, put it in a trophy and, like, put it on campus at Clemson at this point. There's nothing else left really for him to do. Take a great... Like, he's done everything you could possibly do at Clemson. Have a serviceable championship-level quarterback. Nobody ever thought that would happen. Oh, man. Coming back for the last few minutes of the show, guys. Nobody ever thought that would happen. And then, on top of nobody ever thinking that would happen, you also have to play into the factor that, with the Clemson situation, you got T. Higgins, you got Justin Scott, you got Trevor Lawrence, Isaiah Simmons, Butkus Award winner, Tanner Muse, you got great O-lineman, Tremaine Ankrum. I like try to name drop something for the O-line. Travis Etienne, the best running back in college football left out there to still playing games, still playing season games. So, and you got Dabo, and you got a guy like Brent Venables who played scout team quarterback for you all week. So, I think they'll be prepared. I think I really don't see them having any stone left unturned come tonight. It's very hard for me to preview this game because this is a game where I just want to sit back and watch it. Because of the fact I have somewhat of a media responsibility, if you will, to talk about what I think will happen. I feel like this. The team, and I've never felt more serious about this, because I say this about a few different games, but I really mean this shit. the team that gets the ball last will win this ball game. Or LSU blows them out because they show SEC dominance over other conferences. One or the other will happen. I don't see Clemson running off on LSU. I don't think Joe Burrow would allow it to happen. A few other quick things. We'll get up out of here for the day, guys. Jamie Newman transfers to the University of Georgia out of Wake Forest. 61% completion percentage, 2,868 yards, 26 touchdowns, 11 interceptions last year for the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. The 6'4", 230-pound quarterback also had 574 yards and 6 touchdowns, 32 total touchdowns on the season. The kid's kind of a Cam Newton kind of hybrid kind of kid, but, I mean, they say he can throw it. We'll see. Wake Forest, being middle of the road in the ACC to jumping straight into the SEC East, with a team that delves into the West, that goes and plays the West too, and plays good ass teams in the West. I don't know, Jamie Newman. We'll see. I don't know. Paulson Adebo, the second-ranked overall cornerback prospect in the draft, returned to school. He's coming back to Stanford. This year he had 4 picks, 10 PBUs, 33 tackles. Second team All-American in 2018, so that's a big-time pickup for Stanford. Stanford's one of the teams where they're off for 2 or 3 years and then they pop up in the Rose Bowl. They're looking to pop back up in the Rose Bowl like this upcoming season in fall 2020. So we'll see. We'll see what those Cardinals got cooking up out there in Palo Alto. Cade Mays transferred from the University of Georgia right over to the University of Tennessee, which also helped them because the number one offensive lineman in the country when he signed out of high school to go to Tennessee is coming back for his senior campaign as well. After decided to come back from school after hearing from the NFL Draft Advisory Board he should come back to school. So they're going to be really, really good. Really, really good going forward for a good amount of time. They really going to be really good. Jet Duffy, quarterback from Texas Tech, number 7 with the dreadlocks, black guy. Excuse me. He'll be transferring to Tulane. Had a relatively decent career at Texas Tech. Not necessarily the most exciting guy per se, you know what I mean? But a lot of swag about his game, carried himself very, very well. Had a couple of big time moments, you know what I mean? But it just goes to show me the rest of the country probably either wasn't that big on him or they wasn't that hot on the kid, or maybe he's just a flash in the pan type quarterback in a certain type of system, because I was surprised he ended up at a school like Tulane. Tulane, to me, ain't as good of a school. I feel like they're on the up and up. They play bowl games and stuff, but they just played a bowl game this year. Had a really nice uniform on. I can't say with a straight face that they're just on the, just on the rise. You know what I mean? So that's interesting, to say the least. But let's see what I'm looking like on my time. Okay, got about 9:30, about 20 minutes. Okay, so. Mike Leach, he's returning somewhat close to the South, if you will. Well, he's in the South, but former Texas Tech guy. That's what I mean by that. Kind of a bad analogy, but Mike Leach to Mississippi State, coming to Stark Vegas. Everybody, he considered the Tennessee and Arkansas jobs this year. He considered coming to Tennessee as an offensive coordinator under Jeremy Pruitt. Let me be clear. He also considered the Arkansas head coaching job. And he chose not to take the Arkansas head coaching job. And 2 years ago, this past year, he considered coming to Tennessee as a coordinator. But 2 years ago, before they brought in Jeremy Pruitt, he was a guy who interviewed for a head coaching job. And they both kind of tastefully agreed that it was a situation where he wanted to end up staying, out in Washington State and kind of doing his thing. It wasn't so much as his Tennessee interview was like, nah, you're not the guy for the gig. So Mike Leach to Mississippi State. All these teams going forward, in reference to these other teams in the SEC West and some of these teams in the East that are going to play Mississippi State next year, at least in the next 2 years. I think Mike Leach will be there at least 2 years. Then y'all strength and conditioning coaches, y'all better get the running. Y'all better get the conditioning. Y'all better get on them hills. Y'all better get them 110s in, all that, because you got to be able to run all day when you playing against Mike Leach's air raid offense. He's I would say, 85-15 pass to run ratio, 4 or 5 wide, plays splits, 2.5, 3 foot splits on the O line. just a madman. All types of route combinations, all types of eye candy to make you want to bite into and make you want to, So that's definitely a huge pickup from Mississippi State. I don't really think that they should have let go of Joe Moorhead, but I mean, it would be a situation where I'd love to meet a kid from Mississippi State to figure out and just ask him, hey, what happened with that Moorhead situation? Because I guarantee you, the kids were having a blast down there, and a lot of older, old-fashioned people who were Mississippi State supporters athletically or of the athletic department of the football program wasn't going for that. I can guarantee you that they wasn't going for that shit. I can see that from a mile away. One last thing before I get to my 2 cents. Tim Tebow. The Mets are bringing him back to spring training. I don't understand why they're doing this. He's terrible. Last year, he had 163, 4 home runs. His 3 years in the minors, batted 223, he batted 299, he batted 338. A total in his career of 18 home runs. He's got 327 strikeouts in 287 games. He's got more strikeouts than he has games played, people. Like, Tim, go home, bro. You do the SEC network, cool. Just let it be. But the Mets feel like, okay, as long as you think you can play baseball, Tim Tebow, as long as these people are going to come out to these minor league cities and these minor league stadiums that are the affiliates, like the minor league under affiliates of the New York Mets, then they always going to keep Tebow around. It's kind of like a poor man's Michael Jordan effect. And to be honest with you, it's really disheartening because it's kids who can play baseball, who are serious about trying to get to the show. They don't have time to be dealing with and fucking around with Tim Tebow being in the clubhouse because he's Tim Tebow. Like, nobody cares about it. Nobody gives a shit about that. Not to me, at least. And I'm pretty sure not to the next minor league baseball player. I'm blessed to say I have 2 friends that play pro baseball. One's in the Mariners farm system and another one's in the Cardinals farm system. There's no fucking way they would want to see or deal with or want to, be, oh my God, it's Tim Tebow. They don't give a damn about that, man. They're like, man, move out the box, man. Take your cuts and BP and get out the way, man. So I ain't gonna handle my business, go do what I need to do. That's what they're thinking about. So, I mean, I don't even see why they make an article of it. But it's something to talk about, so I talked about it because it's a fish out of water in a different kind of pond. And in this pond, he just looked like another fish. He was a diamond barracuda in the college football pool, and now you throw him in the baseball pool, he just Nemo. You know what I'm saying? He's just another clownfish, just regular. What can you do? Y'all boy gotta tune in, man. Y'all boy asked me about Chiefs. Y'all late. But, yeah, man. But, yeah. Carmelo Anthony. My 2 cents. I don't know. I feel kind of bad. No, not yet. Not necessarily. I mean, I still got to be Tennessee, and they red hot. They smoking hot right now. But the Carmelo Anthony situation, my 2 cents. I'm really, really, really just like it's just cool to see it. Like, I was 13 when Melo came into the league. I remember seeing Melo with the afro at Oak Hill. Like, I remember seeing Melo win a national championship at Syracuse with Queth Duaney and Jerry McNamara and and Hakeem, those guys, Queth Duaney and all those guys. Like, I can't even, you know what I'm saying? So I really am a fan, and I'm happy to see Carmelo Anthony doing what he's doing in the NBA. I feel like at the end of the day, it just goes to show you that if you can play, you can play. And, a lot of people, and it also kind of proved my point that I used to try to tell people 2-3 years ago when Melo was having a hard time sticking in the NBA. I'm like, bro, you just need to go to somewhere schematically where it makes sense. They asked Carmelo to do 2 things in Portland. Either get the ball and go score, distribute it if you're not going to go score. Because we know you a bucket. That's all anybody else should have been doing. That's all anybody should have been doing with Carmelo from the get-go. In Houston and Oklahoma City. But you can't ask Carmelo to go score the ball when he touched in Houston because he was playing with the beard. You couldn't ask Carmelo to go do that necessarily in Oklahoma City because you was playing with the Brody, Russell Westbrook, and you were playing with Paul George. So now you got two unselfish players who are better than you, CJ McCollum and Dame Lillard. Dame ain't really selfish. Dame just kill your ass when it matters. That's what I love about Dame's game. Dame's not really as selfish Dame is not as selfish he's nowhere near as selfish as he is efficient. That son of a bitch just is efficient. You don't get the ball, all right, boom, I'm gonna go get me a bucket ASAP. Not get out of my way. I'm not worried about you even being here at this point. His role with the team, kind of a grandpa role, but it's love though. You know what I'm saying? Like people see, like the guys, you know, they respect how he operates, they respect how he does what he does. You know what I mean? They respect how he goes about his business. You know, he had a game-winning shot 3-4 nights ago. He's been a player of the week he's been a player of the week and a player of the month, if I'm not mistaken, in the Western Conference. No, excuse me. He's been a player of the week on 2 different occasions in the Western Conference so far since his return. That's really dope. And like I mentioned earlier with the All-Star news, he's 6th in the All-Star voting. So right now he's going to make the All-Star team as a reserve. That's dope. Like, that's what's up. Like, in a nutshell, Carmelo Anthony making the return that he made to the NBA is exactly what... Oops. My fault, guys. Okay, hold on. Oh, my fault, everybody. What the hell? Okay. All right, there it is. But yeah, his return to the NBA, it was just necessary, you know. If kids wanna see the world write you off and see, okay, this is how you come back from being written off. Excuse me, look at Carmelo Anthony's situation. Figuring out how to take what you do best and apply it. Look at Carmelo Anthony's situation. Figuring out how to humble yourself, to put yourself in a position to do enough due diligence to find and do enough homework to find yourself exactly where you need to be. Look at Carmelo Anthony for your example. Great, excellent example of how you handle your shit, of how you go about your business. Carmelo Anthony didn't trip. He didn't worry. He made money. Well, excuse me, he said he took care of his money. He was still able to be philanthropic as he wanted to be a socialite as he enjoys being. But he never wasn't out at underground basketball. He never wasn't out at that gym, at that jump man, at that Michael Jordan gym, getting it in. You know what I mean? On Instagram for 2 years straight, busting ass in the gym, busting ass in open runs, busting ass in the workouts. Like, he stayed the course. So one thing that I can appreciate from what you did, Mr. Anthony, was just staying the course and just operating in a way that you did it your own way, but patience and diligent work through your patience allowed yourself to find yourself in a position now where you're now. Let's call it what is your All-Star again. If he makes the All-Star team now, going forward, y'all gotta start calling Melo All-Star again. It's the truth. You may not want to admit it, but it's the truth. But I just feel like it's really, really dope. I'm really, really happy to see it. And I really am interested to see what the Portland Trailblazers will do when the playoffs come, with the addition of a ridiculously efficient Carmelo Anthony. I haven't seen Carmelo be this efficient. It's crazy. Like, it's absolutely amazing, by the way. Last thing for the day, we're going to get up out of here, guys. Sergio Kun, K-U-N, Sergio Kun Aguero. Sergio Aguero is from Argentina. He's a soccer player. Y'all know I like to give a little soccer news at the end of my show. Y'all know I'm a soccer head. He made some really, really big-time history last night. The English Premier League, top 2, top 3 professional soccer league in the world, like club level, not international teams. Some teams, just of note, Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United, Manchester City, Everton, Tottenham, Hotspurs, you know what I'm saying, teams like that. Sergio Aguero broke the record last night of Thierry Henry from Arsenal. He played like 8-9 years in Arsenal. Black dude. I'm talking about Thierry Henry, bald guy. I think Thierry Henry wore like, Thierry Henry used to wear like 9 or 6, number 6, something like that. Sergio Aguero has scored, as of last night, he scored 177 Premier League goals. that broke the record set by Thierry Henry of 176. He broke the record last night. He had a hat trick last night. He had a 4-goal game last night, as a matter of fact. And those 4 goals gave him obviously a hat trick, +1. But his hat trick was the 12th hat trick all time in a Premier League game, which is also a record. So, sending a quick special shout out to Sergio Kun Aguero over there in overseas, doing his thing, and broke that record last night. And I'm not. Who does Kun Aguero play for? I want to say he plays for City, Manchester City. So yeah, that was really, really interesting to see. I try to give you guys as much sports coverage as possible on different things outside of what we just talk about on a regular basis. We'll have some UFC talk next week. We'll have some boxing talk next week. Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, February 22nd is coming. Conor McGregor, Cowboy Cerrone. I think that's this weekend, the 18th. It's on the way. That's like Saturday. So, let me think. Make sure I don't miss anything. So much goes on in sports on every 7 days. I was like, brain be damn near fucking fried when I get over here to record sometimes. Jesus Christ. But as of now, we will definitely be back next Monday for episode 11 of the Untied Jordans podcast. Once again, everybody who tuned in on my Instagram live feed, peace. Thank y'all. As always, want to wish all y'all a good Monday morning. Everybody who tuned into me on my Facebook live feed, want to wish y'all a good morning, happy Monday morning. A little early. I know we try to figure it out. It's either at 8:15 or 10:15. It's always going to be one or the other. I'm trying to keep it as solid as I possibly can, guys. So please continue to bear with me. I'm always eternally grateful for you guys' watch. I'm always eternally grateful for you guys' support. The Untied Jordans podcast is on YouTube. This will be simulcast later on YouTube, the same episode that you watched this morning. Excuse me. Follow the Untied Jordans Twitter page, Untied Jordans, all one word, _, all lowercase letters. I'll have a post later on my Instagram, at proathlete_99, at UntiedJordans_ for the 2 Instagrams. Jordan Mosley on Facebook. If y'all want to watch my live streams going forward, I had a couple people sharing today. I appreciate you guys. Also, since he tapped in, I'll say this. Maybe he's watching, maybe not. I hope so. Big shout out to my high school offensive line coach, Mike Armstrong, for I'm just going to shoot in the dark here. It's 23 years in a row, people. He's put a kid D1, offensive lineman. Parker Clements is going to play tackle at Virginia Tech. I'm a Miami Hurricane fan, so I despise Virginia Tech. Parker, best of luck to you, big dog. I know you were coached by a GOAT, so whoever deals with you in Blacksburg, it'll be a breeze, man. Coach Armstrong, big salute to you, big dog. You the GOAT, man. I don't know how you do it. I don't know, man. You were the GOAT, coach. You were the GOAT as far as offensive line coaching in the state of South Carolina. I am definitely the offensive line coach and connoisseur of the position that I am today because of you, coach, for sure. So congratulations on like I said, I think I'm shooting a little high, but oh well. But I think 18 or 19 years straight, you sent somebody D1 coach. So from the position that you teach, not something else, from O-line. So big salute to you, coach. Once again, guys, my name is Jordan Mosley. This has been the Untied Jordans podcast, episode number 10. You guys have a wonderful Monday. Once again, today is December the 13th. A little rainy outside here in Charlotte today, so y'all stay dry. Do what y'all got to do. Make sure y'all handle that. And y'all be cool. I will see y'all, Lord willing, next Monday. Be good.